Am I recording? Oh, okay, good. Okay, guys, every time I come to you guys, I seem to come and I've got some old sad news to say or something that's really bothering me. I just thought I'd tell you about a few well, I thought they were funny moments in my life. A lot of people know that I enjoy being on stage, and I don't care what I do to entertain you. I like doing it. Okay, so I'm just thinking about some humorous moments. First of all, I'm going to tell you guys some things a lot of you don't know about me. Um, Number one, I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. Okay. My grandparents lived there all of their life. My mom was from there. She went to prestigious colleges. All my uncles, I have six uncles, um, of which they all at a time could have played pro football. That's where I got my stature from. My grandma could sing. Whew, my grandmother could blow. Okay, so consequently, my mom could sing too. Okay, and my mom used to travel on the road, and when I was a kid, I'd go in the audience. I mean, my mom was so good. She sang at Carnegie Hall. Okay, uh, I would sit in the audience and tell everybody that's my mom up there. I'd be pointing up on the stage, right? So uh, so in time, we started growing older, and I sing now, and I don't remember a time not singing, and my mother is the cause of that. We grew up poor. We didn't have a whole lot of anything. It didn't feel like that because we still enjoyed ourselves. We never knew we were poor, but we were poor. We were even poor, you guys, in Michigan that I went to high school with, and junior high school, which you didn't know it, but we were poor then. But anyway, getting back to the story, my mom would make us sing, right? And she would get to the point because we would sing and we would have everybody else would have, growing up, everybody else would have that washer and dryer, right? They'd wash their clothes and dry it. We had to hang our clothes in the basement on a clothesline, okay? We had one of those, we had one of those ringers on our washing machine that you put your clothes through. And many times my hand went inside the ringer and I got stuck. I hope you guys can remember that, those who are old enough. But that's how I lived. And my mother, she would make us sing songs, right? And we'd get out there, and I mean, it sounded like we were Negro slaves, me and my sisters, right? I have three sisters. For those of you who don't know, I got three sisters. And we get out there and we get down in the basement, and she'd yell at me because, all of you people who aren't in my family, I tell you my name is Gerald, and I prefer you to call me Gerald. If you're in my family, you call me Jerry, and that's what everybody else calls me, Jerry. So we get down there in the basement, we'd be hanging up clothes. Now she's already tortured us with this ringer that she's got. Oh, I can tell you something else about the washer. The washer wasn't grounded, right? So you know about electricity and something that's grounded and water. Okay, so we would have to pull the clothes out of the washing machine with water in it and send it through this ringer, right? And you'd get shot, but you'd have to do it over again because you didn't want my mother to get you for that. You do exactly what she said. So you take the shocking you stick your hand in the water and get buzzed up and pull it out and stick it through the ringer. So my mom getting back to the singing story, my mom would say, okay, all right, let's sing this. And we'd start singing, and she'd look at me and say, Jerry. This is how my mother spoke. My mother had an English, she was an English major, right? She, Jerry, sing that song, sing your note, sing your note. She would give you notes. I'd have this note, Karen would have this note, Phyllis would have this note, Tracy would have the note, and Tracy was the baby, okay? She was the youngest, so she didn't get a lot of the things that the older kids got, me, Karen, and Phyllis, right? She did participate, don't get me wrong, she did, but she didn't get what we got, okay? So we'd be out there, yeah, sing your note, Jerry. This is how I know how to sing harmony right now. Okay, all you people who sang with me and stuff. This is how I know, because of my mother. My mother was a trip. I remember at a young age, I was scared. I used to be scared to let my mother get pissed off around people. Because, number one, when I grew up in Michigan, Michigan was a place that had the factories, okay, General Motors. And a lot of people from down south would come up to Michigan. And when they would come up to Michigan, you know, they still brought some of that southern stuff with them, okay? And half the time I at a young age, I had no idea what anybody was talking about. So I would do the age-old thing of just shaking my head. Yeah, okay, I didn't know. But my mother went to, she was in a Catholic school. This is how we ended up in Catholic school. My mother went to a Catholic school, right? And so she sent us to one. I don't know how we did it because we were dirt poor, but we went to Catholic school right up until I was in the 6th grade. And the last school I went to was a school called Sacred Heart in Flint, Michigan, okay? So we moved to Flint. We get there. These people are coming up here from Africa. I'm Africa. Might as well have been Africa. From Arkansas. A lot of people from Arkansas. Just like you people have in Portland. You people here have a lot of people from Louisiana. It was, and a lot of you guys came up here. Your families came up here because the shipyards. This is what I've learned. Our people in Michigan came up because of General Motors. I mean, you didn't even have to have a high school diploma at one time to get in there. And before it was all over, you'd be making $21 an hour with all of the amenities that came with it. Okay, back to my mom. My mother, right, went to these schools, and she was an English major. So for the longest, we couldn't say things like ain't. You mean like, I ain't gonna do nothing. And my mother would be, there is no such word as ain't. Okay, so we knew that. So my mother would get to the point. But when my mother got mad, right, she went to a Catholic school, but she was still black. And if she cussed you out, she cussed you out. The only difference is my mother had diction with her profanity. And she didn't care where she was. If she was pissed off, she was pissed off. And I'd be so embarrassed. Standing in the layaway line, we had to do layaway because we didn't have money just to buy it outright. We go to the layaway line, and God forbid some woman would step in front of my mother. And I know, and I know in my heart, please, Mama, don't say nothing. Don't say anything. Because she wouldn't have the same kind of cuss out that you would hear people say that was like my age and from down in Arkansas. My mother would come up and be like, the sons of bitches, you inconsiderate sons of bitches. And everybody in Kmart could hear this. She didn't care. And push come to shove, she'd fight you too. I mean, my mother once kicked her mother's boyfriend out of a car on the highway, right? This woman pissed my mother off, knocked her out of the door while the car was rolling, right? Opened the door, kicked her out, knocked her wig off in the middle of the wintertime. So, you know, my mother would go. She had 6 brothers, 6 big brothers, right? I mean, when I say big, I mean brawny. They were brawny type guys. And my mother, she knew she could go, you know. And this lady pissed her off because actually, I tell you who she was. She was my mother's boyfriend's sister, and she decided when they picked her up at the airport. She was coming from Chicago to Michigan, to Flint, right, to visit her brother. So my mother and him picked her up at the airport, right? Gets to the airport, and the sister decides that my mother gonna sit in the back seat. My mother, oh, hell no, I ain't sitting in no. This is my man. Now you want to ride, you can get in the back seat. Well, the woman decides she's gonna squeeze in the front seat and put my mother in the middle between her and her boyfriend, and with her on the end. So the lady kept making just nasty stuff at my mother. And Lord knows I knew it was coming. She pissed her off one last time. And my mother said, "You bitch." Okay. My mother was, she didn't say, "Come on, bitch." No, my mother was, "You bitch. You don't know who you are speaking to." And I was like, oh shit, it's gonna happen. My mother reached over, opened the door, took her foot, kicked her out. Lady's wig come off in the snow. He had to slow down on the highway, I-75, going back from Detroit to Flint. I think we were on I-75. I don't know, one highway. Anyway, kicked her out. She bounced down the highway. My mother kicked her out. But you know what? She got up. She put that wig on sideways, opened up the back seat of the car, and got back there and sat back there with me. And I was thinking like there. I was like, I was probably maybe in a third, fourth grade. I'm thinking to myself, I bet you she won't say another word until we get to where we going. And the lady was quiet. And I was thinking, man, I can add insult to injury by saying your wig's on crooked. But I did it. Anyway, that's just one of the stories that I had. And I thought I'd tell you guys some humorous stuff. I'm kind of bouncing around because I'm not a professional comedian in any way, but I just thought I'd leave you guys with a couple things. In 2005, I quit. I smoked weed from the time I was a kid up until I was grown, and I smoked weed. And my mother found out I smoked weed. I used to sit in the sink. I used to get high, come home, sit in the sink. I don't know why I did this, but it was just the most comfortable place in there. In the kitchen sink, I would sit there and give me a bowl of potato salad because I got the munchies, right? So I'd sit there eating my potato salad. And one day my mother walked up and looked at me and said, "You been smoking that shit, ain't you?" And I didn't even care because I was high. I was like, "Yep." My mother said, "Let me tell you something." She said, "I'm not coming to jail to pick you up for smoking weed. If you're going to smoke that shit," this is what people who didn't smoke weed back then, that was their terminology for smoking. If you're going to smoke that shit, you smoke it downstairs in the basement because I'm not picking you up from jail, and I'm not paying for you getting out of jail. Do you understand that? You smoke in the basement. I don't know why she told me that, because I'm going to tell you something. Pretty soon, the whole neighborhood of my buddies was sitting down in my basement, and we were sitting down there getting towed up all the time. I mean, to the point where, and I started at a very, very early age. My mother doesn't know about this, but I guess I'm going to tell some truths about me. My mother didn't know, but I used to go to my friend's house down the road because I have no brothers. I had no fathers. And this is kind of like Father Day. I had no fathers. I had not fathers. I had boyfriends my mother had, but they never got close enough to tell me to do anything because I probably wouldn't have done it anyway. and I would have been real rebellious. Anyway, getting back to the weed story, getting high. So I had a friend down the street, Johnny Ray and his family, and at about the sixth grade, I would I would go down there and spend the night at their house, and they were I love them like they were brothers, but their family came from um, their family came from Arkansas also. So what ended up happening, as I found out later, that they were related to me. They were cousins, you know. So anyway, we would go down there and get high, and they were the first ones to start me getting high. Actually, when I started smoking weed, I was smoking cigarettes at about the sixth grade, and sixth, seventh grade, I was smoking cigarettes. I used to take these pills. They call them Christmas trees, right? They were green and yellow, and I don't know why they call them, no, green and red. They were green and red, and I guess they were downers. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, we used to go over to dope houses and knock on the door. In the sixth grade, I'm gonna tell you something. Right now, you know how pissed off I know I would be if I found out that my son in the sixth grade was going to a dope house, knocking on the door, telling, "Let me get some trees, man." And you can get it back then, $3. $3 it would cost you. And I think that's just ludicrous, right? That now the only thing that the weed can do for me is put me to sleep at night, right? Because I get all paranoid. Anyway, about back to the Cubas. That's who turned me on to getting high. The Cubas up the street, right? Those were my surrogate brothers, I guess. You know, I started getting older, so I can remember this story. One day, my neighbor, right? Talking about humorous story. One day, my neighbor, and my neighbor was Neil Martin. He lived next door. Okay, me and Johnny Ray Cuba, that's the guy, that lived up the street. We were together. We were sitting in the backyard. His cousin had a Thunderbird. Remember those Thunderbirds with the suicide doors? You got to be old enough to know that. With the suicide doors. This was a Thunderbird with suicide door. We all piled into the back of that car. And I mean, we were just sitting back there smoking weed. And I must have taken some other pill too. But I remember just being messed up. And on the radio, well, it wasn't the radio. Back then they had 8-track tapes. You remember them? If you were into a song and the song would be going along and you'd be jamming, and then all of a sudden it'd just stop, right? And you'd hear clunk, clunk, clunk. And then it would fade out. It would go off and fade back in. So we were listening at the time to a song called Four Corner Room by War, okay? And this song was trippy anyway, right? And this song would be like, I'll give you the general idea of this song. You'd sit there and it'd be like, as I sit in my four-corner room, da-doom, doom, doom. So there's a part that comes, it goes zoom, 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 and you'd hear, and if you high, this was fucking you up. I'm serious. And and I'm sitting back there, so me and Neil's in the back. Neil was about I'd say Neil was 6'5", maybe 6'6", maybe 6'7". I don't know. He was taller than I was. I'm only about 6'2" now. So Neil was taller than I was, and we sit in the back. He was older also. So we sitting back there, we're smoking weed, and we're just getting blasted, man. And that music, as I sit in my four-cornered room, do-doom-doom-doom, and I'm like, oh, man, this is so cool. So somewhere, sitting back there, and there ain't a whole lot of room in there. With guys sitting next to me, there's 6'6", 6'7", and I'm sitting on the other side. We ain't got a lot of room, so we're sitting in the back seat, and we're trying to get as much space out of where we are in this Thunderbird, right? So we're sitting back there, song's going, everything's cool, and I'm sitting back there, yeah, man, blah. And for some reason, I'm thinking to myself, damn, my ankle is itching really bad, right? So I'm sitting back there going, damn, my ankle is itching really bad. Now, I'm sitting in the back seat and Neil's next to me, right? I'm heterosexual all the way. I don't want Neil to think that to get the idea, the slightest inkling that I swing that way. I have nothing against you if you're homosexual. That's cool, whatever, right? But I'm not. Okay, I didn't want him to think I was. So we're sitting in the back seat. I get this itch. The itch is on my ankle. Now I got to get down there, right? Like I said, we were trying to get as much space out of this as we possibly can, right? In the back seat of this Thunderbird is what I'm saying. So I'm down there and I go, shit, So I reach down, right, and start scratching my ankle, right? And I'm scratching. Now I'm digging in, right? Because I'm like, I'm not getting no relief off this itch, man. And I'm thinking, well, maybe it's a mosquito bite because, Michigan is the mosquito capital of the world, man. We got all these lakes around us. Water breeds, mosquitoes. So I'm sitting back here and I'm down there digging in my ankle. I'm digging. I'm thinking, shit, I ain't getting no relief off of this. And I'm scratching and scratching and scratching. And I look over at Neil, and he's sitting next to me, and he's got this look on his face. And I'm thinking, what the hell are you looking at me like that for? He said, man, if you don't quit scratching my motherfucking ankle. I thought that was funny. I'm scratching the shit out of this man's ankle. Anyway, that's just a few stories. I don't want to keep going because I've been on here, 22 minutes. It's just some of my humorous times growing up as a kid. Like I said, I went to a Catholic school. Think about going to Catholic school. I'll tell you this story, too. Think about going to Catholic school. I was dyslexic and I didn't know, right? Even now, you know how they put the little ticker on your screen, right? And you're not, what do they call that? The teleprompter thing on the bottom, right? It's not that I can't read. I can read words. I can write. I can understand. I can comprehend. Don't make a mistake and think that I'm stupid because I can't read. I can read. I just can't. I can't. My reading capabilities aren't as fast as other people. So when they put up the closed caption on television right now, I'll look at that television and stuff. I won't know what it said because I've read maybe the first two sentences and it's gone. Okay, so that kind of is another thing that clued me up to me being dyslexic, right? And so anyway, I went to a Catholic school. Now, in a Catholic school, in the Catholic school I was in, they would the report cards were given out by the pastor of the school, right? He had a house there, and the nuns lived there, and all of that. And every time report card came out, I hated him to call me up, and he didn't make me feel bad about me having a lower grade than the other students. It would be like he'd tell me, he'd be like, okay, well, you got to do better next time. And I'm going to tell you something. As a kid, I felt so bad that I couldn't keep up with the other kids. And I was like, I knew in my heart, I'm not stupid, but I'm not getting the same thing the other kids are. So my mother, I told you before, my mother made me sing, right? We sang all kind of stuff. My mother she didn't segregate her music. Whatever it was, she made us sing it. So one year, right? I tell you that. Even in spelling, when we had spelling bees, well, what they would do is they would make the class stand up. Everybody would stand along the line in front of the window that you seen outside. And they would give you a word and you would spell the word they gave you, right? So we'd get up in line and everybody would stand in line and I'd be like, okay. So I would always get to the back of the line, right? Because I didn't want them, I wanted to at least make myself feel like I've been standing there for a long time. I spelled some words because the people in the back of the line, if you got it right, you went back to the back of the line. So I'm going to get back in the back of the line. So I get in line. So I'm going to show you. This is a serendipitous occasion. All right. I learned that from Bob Miller. If you're watching Bob, he taught me this word. Okay. Serendipitous. Okay. It's a favorable discovery, right? It's the ability, it's the serendipitous is the aptitude of favorable discoveries. There's the word serendipity, right? Serendipitous is the actual doing of it. You walk down the street and you got 4 cents, you need a nickel, and you find a penny, and serendipitous. Okay. Anyway, so I'm standing in this line. I'm standing at the very end of the line, right? And so finally, about maybe 6 people in front of me, maybe, right? The word comes up, Oklahoma. Oklahoma, right? I said, this is one I'll get, man. So I'm hoping everybody, all those people in front of me, I hope they get it wrong. So they asked the first person, and the first thing came out of their mouth was O-A-K. And I was thinking, yeah, O-A-K. You stupid son of a bitch. I'm thinking, you dumbass. Look who talking. Look, you dumbass. So they had, finally, person in front of me, they get to the word, and they say, spell Oklahoma. And I don't know why everybody kept saying O-A-K, because if the person in front of me said O-A-K and that's as far as you got and you said wrong, I would know it was an O-A-K, okay? So it gets to me, and shit, Gerald, and I know, they're nuns, right? And I know this nun is thinking, this dumbass ain't gonna answer. He ain't gonna be able to spell Oklahoma. I stood up proud and stuck my little chest out, and I said, Oklahoma. Oklahoma. And she said, that's right. And I was thinking, oh, listen to me. I spelled the word. She sent me back. I went back. The next word I got wrong. But sent me to the back of the line. I was still in the line. I was so proud of myself. I was so damn proud. Anyway, I'll tell you why I knew that word, right? This is getting back to what I told you about my mother. My mother would make us sing songs, and like I said, she had no prejudice about what the song was, where it came from. I knew how to do country. I knew how to do opera. One of my favorite songs was the 1812 Overture. Okay, if you ever heard that. Some of you people listen to that. I loved it, and it had cannons and bells and everything else in it, and I loved it. Oh, man, I love that. It's probably why... No, it's not probably why. I grew up in music. Like I said, my uncle and my mother traveled on the road, and I went with them before I went to school. So anyway, my mother would make us sing. One of the songs that we would do while we were down in that basement washing all of was Oklahoma, right? And it's from the musical Oklahoma. Oklahoma, L-A-H-A-O-M-A, Oklahoma. Woo! Right? That's how I knew. Yeah, so that right there kind of cued me up to me not being stupid anyway, because I figured that if I could remember that, then I'm not dumb. And I knew something was wrong, and it took me until I was grown, and I figured this out when I was grown, that I didn't read like everybody else. So I started reading books. I really because I didn't have the aptitude of the swift reading like everybody else. I would read books that were true, and it would hold my attention. So I want to know what's going to happen. And the first book I read all the way from cover to cover was a book called Sybil, and it was about multi personalities, which I still enjoy reading books about that now. If you want to find a good book, read a book called William Mulligan. He was the first person in the United States, in Ohio or Indiana, I can't remember what state it was in, and they convicted him of he was the first person that was found innocent by insanity until the media found out they were letting him go, and he was, they had almost cured him because they were giving him doctors and stuff. And just tell you how we are. Media found out about it. They took away his doctors. They locked him up in an insane asylum, and that's where he spent the rest of his days because he had killed somebody when he was doing those multiple personalities. Anyway, I gotta go. Maybe I'll do some more of these. Y'all guys tell me, am I just wasting your time or was it entertaining? And I hope it was entertaining. I can't get on the stage anymore because everybody who knows me, I love being on the stage. And for you people in Flint, Michigan that know me, my sister Karen, myself, my cousin, and a guy named Mark Cunningham were the reason that Beecher has the Black Arts Festival. We started that by going to the Beecher School Board, and we made a list of demands, and it's long. Maybe I'll tell you this story. Maybe I'll tell you this story at another time. But tell me if you want me to continue. Write it up. Tell me, and if you want me to continue telling you some stories, I will. And if you don't, tell me to fuck off, whatever. But I want to tell you guys, thanks for listening to me. Have a good day today, a better day tomorrow, and a more profitable new year to come. Deuces. Bye.